Alright, hey guys, Leroy Diesel. Going to show you today the differences between the thermostat crossovers and the differences between a single and a dual thermostat. There's a lot of confusion out there. I'll just kind of start with some information first. A lot of people think that going to a dual thermostat crossover like this is an upgrade. I don't think it is. If you have a single and you're going to the upgraded balanced flow water pump, I actually recommend you just keep the single, and I'll explain all of this and why in just a second. What I've got here is I've got a 1996, an early 96 single thermostat. This is 96 and newer, but this was the later, like they only made this for maybe the first, I don't even really know, maybe 3 months in 96. And then after that it went to the dual. If you have this crossover, keep it. It's a desirable crossover. People want it because they want to put the single on their 96 and newer dual thermostats. And so the reason I say that, and a lot of other people say it, it's not necessarily my own opinion, but it just makes sense and I subscribe to it, is on the single thermostat, you get a thermostat that looks like this. That's the single. And it has the bypass blocker built into it right here on this spring. On these duals, here's one of them, I got another one over here. On the dual thermostat style in my right hand, there's no blocker. This is the blocker. So what you've got to do is, and by the way, it's no problem at all to run a dual thermostat crossover. If you have one, just keep it. But what you need is my BRF fitting. We call it a bypass restrictor fitting. And this is going to restrict the flow. Like this one basically cuts it off. You'll get some seepage. It's not going to be a perfect seal, but it pretty well cuts it off. On this one, you're reducing the flow of all that hot water right back to the engine. So if you have a dual, you can keep it, but you need this fitting. So going back to the single, you see right here, I'll put it in the crossover for you now. Get these out of the way. So if you look down, I'll show you on this one, it's because there's a hole, it goes all the way through. You see there's a hole that goes all the way through, and that goes right back to the water pump. And there's also a machined ledge or flange there, and it's the exact same thing on this one, but it's hard to see because it's not straight through. It's designed to go down to the crossover, you know, like a dual thermostat has. So with that said, what you do is you just put it in there just like normal, and it won't, that surface is not going to bottom out on that, because it helps to heat the engine up. For when you're trying to warm up the engine initially, you want that hot water going back to the engine. So water right now, if I had everything all buttoned up and this was installed, water could go back down to the water pump very easily right now if the engine is cold. As the engine warms up and this valve opens, you see that valve opening there? Yeah, you kind of see that in the viewfinder there. It opens up, but what that means is that this valve, the bypass valve, is going downwards. So it's going that way towards the crossover. And when it does that, it bottoms out on that flange right here and makes a seal. And then in that case, it prevents all that hot water that's coming up here from going straight back to the suction side of the water pump, which is down below, and forces all that water back to the engine. I'm sorry, not this way, but it's going back to the upper radiator hose. And the flow is coming this way out of the head, and that way out of the head up here, and then that way back to the upper radiator hose. And so that's the hot water going that way, and you don't want that hot water going back to the engine. So the other small difference is this style does take a gasket like that. You'll just have to put a gasket on there in your favorite sealant, and then button all that up. The nice thing about the duals is it has the rubber seal already built into it, so you don't need to mess with any, you know, sealants that just kind of are nasty to work with. Sometimes you get them all over your hands and stuff, but whatever, it's what we got to deal with. So that's nice about the duals. You don't have to do that. On the singles, you need to put some silicone or R2V, whatever you want to use on there. And then lastly, the 90, actually it goes all the way back to 6.2s, would have something similar to this. Even the Humvees would have something similar to this style. Here's the upper, and it goes off like that. That direction obviously is the radiator. And it's the same thermostat, by the way, that fits in there, and it does the same thing. Just a little different orientation because of the difference in where they built them. But on a single, it does the exact same thing. If you have that style, keep it. Go ahead and keep it. There's no problem running that with a high volume water pump, and you'll get all those benefits I just talked about. And then one more time, if you have a dual, that's not a problem either. But no need to spend the money looking for, or I'm sorry, if you have a single, no need to spend the money looking for a dual. I would just run it like it is. But then again, one more time, if you have the dual, you need this fitting, and it'll restrict that fitting. It won't shut off all the water, but it's a compromise. So, oh, and by the way, threw this up here. Everybody probably knows what these tools are. A little air tool, 90 degree with a Scotch lock on it. That thing is so cool for cleaning gasket surfaces, like right here. You can buzz all that down, and be careful because you can damage the metal. You can bear down on it a little too hard, but it cleans those surfaces really nice. And where's the other guy? Oh yeah, this side. So it'll clean those, and you'll be good to go. Any questions, as always, LeroyDiesel.com if you want to visit my website. And hopefully this was some good information for you guys. I get a lot of phone calls concerning this, and hopefully this will answer some of those calls and let me be creative and produce more products for you guys. Have a good day. All right, part 2 of the thermostat housings. So this is the single. This is a early 96 single thermostat that you can see I've got installed here. And then, you know, should be pretty self-explanatory. Just a couple tips. With the single thermostat, you do not need to run the BRF fitting, which would install in the water pump right here. On a dual thermostat, you would install it here, and then obviously your dual thermostat's up here, but you only need one of those fittings. I guess you could put it up here. I mean, that's no reason why you couldn't. But you just need one. I've had people ask me if they need to put one in each position. You do not. You only need one. The other little tip is you've got to remove the AC compressor in order to get that in there. So just 4 bolts, and then the whole compressor will kind of come up out of the way, enough to give you some room in there. What I use for sealant, I use on all these hoses. I don't know whether this company exists anymore. When I got this stuff a couple years ago, it was hard to find. But anytime I have a hose connection here, on my radiator hoses, whatever, I use this company. The product used to be called Aqua Shield. Can't get it. Aqua Shield, and it is very greasy stuff. It's designed to be waterproof. I'm trying to set my camera down. Give me a second. I want to show you what it looks like. But I've used this for years. I think my brother turned me on to this stuff probably back in the 70s. When you squeeze it out, it is just some stringy stuff. You see how string it. It's really nasty to work with it, to be honest. I hate because it gets on everything. But you put that on a hose, and 10 years later you can come back and get that hose off of there. You need to put a good coating on the hose surfaces, and maybe even on the metal surface you're trying to put it on. I even use that on gaskets. Like, for example, on that crossover, I used it instead of a sealant. I used it on the connection for the crossover to the head, and then also where the thermostat gasket goes, I use it. And so that means cleanup next time around is going to be much easier, and I really like that product. It used to be called Aqua Lube, and now it looks like they call it Aqua Shield. It's a company. On the bottle it says it's made in Pennsylvania, and I'll give you their phone number. They'll probably get a bunch of business out of this, and they're not expecting this. I don't get paid. This is just me giving a free endorsement because I like this product. It's 610-666, the number of the beast, and then 4000, and they're in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. So, you know, you might consider giving that a look. That's it. One other just quick thing. It's not really related to much, but just little, I guess some people call it a top tip. I've heard people call that. This oil filler neck, this is a 96 truck, but this oil filler neck is off of a 99 and newer. Let me grab this guy. This is actually the original, and if you match that up with that bolt hole, you can see how much shorter it is. So it's a really small difference, but because it's taller, it's kind of easier to get your oil in there, to put a funnel in there, and all of that. So I like using the 99s. Also, it will have a slightly different cap on it. It's got an O-ring on the cap. Now, I'm trying to work with one hand. There we go. It's got an O-ring on there, so it creates a real nice seal. And when you put that in there, it's kind of pretty. It's a pretty positive seal. Where this guy's, they always stay kind of loose, and it's just sort of a flat gasket in there. And you see that. I don't know. They're not quite as good of a design in my opinion, but just my 2 cents. Anyway, that's how you would install the thermostat crossover. And any questions, let me know. LeroyDiesel.com. Have a great day. Bye.